is the greatest moment in my life.
Oh, I never get tired of hearing that music, you know.
Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Apparently, we're officially late. I believe, people, we are exactly right on time. And it's
I was on time this week.
You was early. You was
I was early. Amazing, mate. Amazing.
Amazingly early.
It was. I was on the screen before you were.
I saw you on the screen before I connected my camera.
Whoa, sneaky, watching me from a distance, mate. There's words for people like you.
You were doing things that cannot be mentioned in front of underage ears. Picking his nose live.
Yeah. Live, yeah. That's for like the After Dark stuff. That'll come out on.
It certainly is.
The special DVD bonus release or something.
It will. So let's get into chain wrestling.
Good
then.
evening.
Yes.
Good morning, wherever, whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Sai, a Radio Tekkers production. I am the raring to go Sai because I've had a day off work. I've had a can of Monster. I've had loads of sleep, and I'm kind of buzzing a little bit. And joining me, as always, is the showcase of the immortals to my tasty chipottles. I know that's a throwback, that is. Way back to the audio-only days. That's a bit of a deep dive, that one. If you know, you know.
Chipottles.
Yeah.
Chipotle.
The hologram of Al to my Dr. Sam Beckett. Yep, nothing to do with wrestling. Just a cheap plug for my new show coming out Friday. We'll talk about that in a bit. A podcaster who I expect would like to travel back to around 1294 and witness the creation of his Padium Kingdom firsthand. Joining me this week, Mr. Mags.
Did you research when Padium became a town?
Mate, I'm nothing if not professional.
So you're nothing. I mean,
it's not a town, it's a borough, a part of Burnley, apparently.
Well, it's a boil on the arse of Burnley. That's very, very true.
There you go, 1294, yes. Though, mate. 1294. Yeah. Apparently, in the I think it was like 1920s, its population was at its highest, maybe.
Yeah, and then people realised that this is a horrible place to live. Let's move away. But yeah, I'm buzzing as well. I'm all caffeined up, ready to talk some chain wrestling. I had a pretty decent week. UFC was on relatively early, so I got a nice, refreshing sleep. Then we got to watch Liverpool absolutely spank the arses of Man United. So yeah, it's been a good weekend all around.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
The Victor Lindelof fan club was not happy.
My goodness, it was not an enjoyable afternoon, but it's been coming for a while. Yes. Dan Griffin in the chat there very quickly saying my pronunciation of Chipotle makes him feel sick. It's a long running joke from back in the audio days, mate. It's I'll see if I can dig the episode out. I'm not 100% sure which one it was. But...
And Dan, if you heard him on the latest episode of the SJP podcast, the Awesome Foursome, where he burped live on audio, then you would be more disgusted than you are right now. And also, Matt Willis in the chat, kablam, correct.
Yes. Oh, just a way context, okay? My mute button's broke, all right? Oh, switch round. Look at that. Swap places.
That's getting complaints from Anya saying they're the wrong way around, but I like it. Well, I don't like you to like it, so we swap it round.
My mute button is broken, but the first time I realised this was I thought I muted my microphone when we were recording SJP this last week. Mm-hmm. When I thought, a little bit of a burp, so let it out. Unmuted myself, didn't realise until it came to editing the show. Couldn't cut it out because I'm not talented enough, and Magsy and me were talking over the top of it as well. So, yeah, had to stay in. So there we go. That was incredibly frustrating.
And as a professional, I sold the burp.
You did indeed, mate. You did indeed.
Even though internally I was revolted.
Disgusted. Yeah. Full of rage for belching on your audio presence.
Absolutely, but we've got plenty of our good friends here in the chat. Some people were way eager than we actually were. So Charlie and Scar jumping in the chat with 10 minutes before we even started. Sharon, Dan, Scottish Dan, they're all the crowd's all here. Anya, Matt Willis. So cheers for joining. Graham's here as well. Let's put a dampener. Because put a dampener on proceedings, but yeah, we absolutely love that you're all there. Yeah, we appreciate every single one of you.
I will just very quickly, seeing as I've seen Sky, my daughter's good friend, is in the chat. Just put a little disclaimer out there. It is after 9 o'clock. Chain wrestling isn't sometimes totally kid friendly. We do use a bit of bad language here and there. We do maybe cover a couple of topics that are a bit dodge. I've thrown that out there now. As far as I'm concerned, I'm no longer responsible. So
on your own head be it.
On your head be it. Remember, Sky, we know your mum.
That's
so
the
behave
worst
yourself in the
threat.
chat.
As a kid, that's the worst threat. Like, I'll tell your mum or I'll tell your dad. The worst threat you could throw out.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Okay. Before we get to our rather excellent non-wrestling topic this week, lots to debate and discuss on that one. There's a couple of things I want to cover very quickly before we do, Magsy. First of all, the very sad news. What's that?
Sorry, I mean, it is going to be sad news.
Criticize anyone for burping on a podcast.
I just spotted that in the chat. Dan Griffin, you absolute animal.
Shocking.
Just to say, is going to be serious as well.
I was going to be quite serious, mate. Actually, yeah, but let's just throw fart jokes out there instead. That's more chain wrestling style. The sad news this week about Jim Ross being diagnosed with skin cancer. I just want to say, from me personally, from chain wrestling and so on, send in Jim Ross good wishes, good wills, and so on. An absolute legend in our crazy world of professional wrestling. Hopefully everything goes okay, everything goes according to plan. He kicks this horrible thing's ass and doesn't miss a beat, and carries on performing to the level he can. I love Jim Ross. He's the soundtrack to my youth, the soundtrack to me growing up. I know some people now say he's not as good as he once was, makes mistakes, says the wrong thing here and there. I don't give a shit. I'd rather have Jim Ross calling my wrestling matches than anyone else.
I mean, when it comes to things like this, how you perceive that talent is compared to how they've been in their early career is irrelevant. The fact is, he's been a legend to many of us all the way through our lives, and the fact he's going through this and he's took it all in his stride and he's facing it head on. That's even more respect for an absolute legend. I mean, the dude went out and said, "I'm kicking this as ass and I'm going for tacos." I mean, you can't say any better. So the wrestling world is 100% behind Jim Ross on this, and I'm sure he will come out of this as strong as ever.
Yeah, God bless Jim Ross. Okay. Also, we will, I suppose, again cover our Halloween special coming up next week. As of this episode finishing tonight, or the audio when you hear it, things will be put up on our social medias with regards to how to enter the fancy dress Halloween competition. It can be new images took this week. It can be new images took for Halloween this year. It can be an old image of you from parties past, whatever. Anything that you think would potentially win you the prize or you want to send into the show so we can have a look. Magsy and I will be dressed up for the Halloween special when we broadcast it this time next week.
We will.
The more people who get involved, the better. There will be prizes for the best fancy dress sent to us, and it will be sent via DM to either the Chain Wrestling account or Mr. Mags's account. Mags's account will probably be the best one to send it to, but we can figure it out one way or another. But all that information will be coming up on the show's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There is a TikTok, but I ain't got a bloody clue what I'm doing. So all that good stuff coming up. It's going to be a great show. We've got a great Halloween-esque non-wrestling topic for you all. We've got the potential of laughing at me dressing like an absolute buffoon. Magsy says he's going to look badass. So.
I mean, I will probably look like a buffoon. My version of badass, it may not be the same as everybody else's, but yeah, definitely do not let this flop. We're risking a lot in this. If this goes down the pan, we'll look like absolute idiots. We're obviously getting the unique one of a kind merchandise sorted. So yeah, don't let this flop. Chuck your pictures in. At the end of the day, it's Halloween. It's a good laugh.
It's gonna be a giggle.
We appreciate you all. So yeah, definitely don't let this flop.
grab yourself a drink on next Monday, sit down, watch us two be prats, talk about scary stuff, dressed up as idiots. Have a look at pictures of other members of our chain wrestling community in fancy dress, whether that was as kids, modern day, this week, last week, 10 years ago, whichever way you want to do it. It can be wrestling orientated, it can not. Anything goes, you know, as long as we're all together on a Monday night at 9 o'clock, having a laugh, enjoying ourselves. And again, some chain wrestling merch to be won and be sent out to you all. So yeah, there's that. So it's going to be a good laugh. So keep your eyes peeled. The only thing that you need to do to be eligible is to make sure you are following Chain Wrestling on Twitter at chain_wrestling. You are following the Radio Tekkers account at Radio Tekkers on Twitter, and subscribed to the Radio Tekkers YouTube channel as well. I mean, most of you probably are anyway. Great stuff. Share it, tell all your friends, get them to watch, get them to come along, get them to send pictures in. It's going to be a good laugh. It's going to be a good show. Yeah, it's going to be good. We've got a couple of things planned that we haven't done before. Well, one thing in particular that I was messaging you the other night about magazine, that I think could be a good laugh. I
mean, good laugh's a stretch. Maybe.
I'll chuckle. It's going to be a good laugh. It's going to be a good laugh. So yeah, so make sure you join us for that.
Jesus Christ. Matt has already thrown his picture in. Whew. Yeah, it's going to be hard to beat.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Is Matt the standard now? Yeah.
He's set the bar, and he's set the bar high.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. Right, before we get on to our non-wrestling topic, Magsy, what we got going on in the chat then?
So yeah, the chat are doing what the chat does, talking between themselves and not really paying much of attention to us. But yeah, we've got all the big hitters are in. Dan Griffin saying your pronunciation of Chipotle makes him sick. Yeah, obviously. And he also agrees that Paddy is the arsehole of the universe. Also, he agrees that the Liverpool win was one of the most glorious things that he has ever seen. Matt Willis correcting you on your horrific pronunciation of Chipotle. And then Dan saying, this tickles me. I can't criticize anyone for burping on a podcast after I farted down the mark on my own. And that to me sounds like you stood up to fart.
Yeah.
Like,
did you
down the mark?
Or is it on like a boom arm? Did you just bring it round?
like when Peter Griffin grabs Meg's face and just rams it in. Yeah, horrific. Sharon covering legalities, saying that Sky is her goddaughter and she gives this blessing. And I think she also covers more legalities later on by saying, sending your pic, you are giving your permission for it to be used in any chain wrestling promotion. So there is that. Matt confirming he sent me his image. And then Graham saying, is he using that picture of Shambles from EGX? So EGX. So EGX is like a gaming conference slash I don't even know what they call them. Basically, where new video games are announced and you see that heart trailers and you get to interview people. And Matt and Alex from Game Junkies got media passes, so they were part of the media team there. And he was handing out flyers for Dungeons and Junkies whilst dressed up.
Right.
And Dan Griffin, oh my, I did stand up. I was drunk and enraged that I fucked up and put a Jeff Jarrett match on the top 5. So you farted into the mark. I mean, oh, wow, that's horrific. I may never be able to listen to Unbooking the Territory again.
It makes you wonder what they cut out, doesn't it? You know?
It does. I mean, it makes you wonder what we cut out.
We don't cut nothing out, mate. I'll be honest with
you. We barely edit.
That's it. They hear it. I'd chuck a little bit of music in here and there and maybe a promo, and that's that. That's, you know. I enjoy it, though, mate. I enjoy it. Shall we get to our non-wrestling topic for the week then, Magsy?
Yes, we shall, sir. Yes, we shall.
Okay. What we thought we would look at this week, in honor, I suppose, of the Waiting Room podcast, joining the Radio Tekkers brand on Friday. My new show with our good mate, Mr. Benny Mac. looking back at the time-traveling 80s, 90s sci-fi program Quantum Leap. And when I say in honor of that, actually, I thought of that after we put this topic out. And I just kind of thought, oh, okay, I'll link it to that anyway. it wasn't intentional at all. But yeah, basically, we thought we'd, just throw the question out there. If you could go back in time, or if you could experience a certain moment or historical incident happening live, whether that would be something huge and hugely important historically, or just experience a certain period of time, or a particular sporting event, or a concert, or see a band that have split up that you never get the chance to see, or anything along those lines, where would you go? Or when, I suppose, would you go? I guess. I don't know. We've had some great responses, Magsy, didn't we? Some brilliant stuff.
Brilliant and diverse. Some really interesting picks.
Yeah, definitely. I will do as I always do and just run through them in the order they arrived into us as roughly as I can, depending on my list here. First of all, we have, well, actually, whilst I do this, if you want to have a look, I'm currently holding my phone up as I normally do to look at the list because I'm not as technically savvy as Mr. Mags. Have a quick look at this. Little chain wrestling pop socket there on the back of my phone.
Wow, look at that. That's badass.
That. See, we're not making it up when we say about merch coming and there's competition prizes. We're preparing for things.
Is this the same phone that you once left on the bus?
Yes. It is. But I got it back. Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter, good friend of the show. He would say, wrestling wise, he would go back to 1992 to witness Bret Hart versus the Bulldog at SummerSlam live. That's a great shout because to me that's one of the greatest matches WWE have ever put on. It's non-gimmick wise anyway, one of the greatest sort of standard one-on-one contests.
Arguably the best intercontinental title match that there's ever been.
Yeah, I reckon that's a good shout, Magsy. Music, Dan says he would like to go back to 1985, get to see Queen playing in Rio as part of the Works tour. Now, I'd have thought 85, 86, you'd have been looking at Queen at Wembley, potentially, because that was like a big thing, wasn't it? But the Works tour in Rio, I'm going to have to look that up myself. I don't know a great deal about that. And football, I suppose this is one that sort of stands to reason, and it was in the back of my mind as well. The 1966, going back there for England winning the World Cup, or back to any of Liverpool's European Cup finals. So, the one they lost to Milan. Would you want to go there? If there's any. I don't know. But yeah, 66 England, I can appreciate that 100%, mate. 100%.
Yeah, totally. That's definitely one on my list.
Yeah, definitely. Ori also mentions Queen at Ori the Draw on Twitter. She says, definitely Queen in the UK. Sporting event when the Saints won the Super Bowl. Saints, Magsy, where are they from?
Well, she's from Louisiana, so I would assume like St. Louis, maybe.
There's a place called Utah, isn't there?
That's a band. The Utah.
Yeah, I know.
Saints.
I know. But there's a place called Utah, so it could be. Wouldn't that be great if the NFL team was called the Utah Saints? That'd be awesome.
I don't think that Utah have an NFL team. They've got a basketball team, the Jazz.
Yeah, that's not as cool.
I know, but
it's
only because you linked it to the 90s dance trio, the Utah Saints.
Yeah, I like that. Utah Jazz don't sound as cool. I don't really like jazz anyway. So
the basketball players don't come on that.
I've never got jazz. I've just never got it. My uncle listens to a lot of jazz, and and I know other people that do as well now, saying when you get older you'll appreciate it. I mean, how old have I got to be? Because I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm the same. Some I can listen to if it's like background music, but the very kind of experimental jazz, it sounds like they're trying to tune their instruments. Like the notes don't go in order. It's very, very jarring. I'm not a huge jazz fan.
No. You want sort of jarring nonsense? I'll just listen to Scatman John. Similar sort of vibe, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Well, it is, isn't it? You know.
If you
Or
want
he
to
continues.
give us a bit of a scat and go, well, no, that sounds wrong. Sorry for that scat. If you want to scat away, Jesus,
Me?
that
No, I
sounds
can't.
even worse.
I'm not going to. I'm not. I can't compete with the
No, so
talent
you
of
can't
Scatman
like
John.
do be ba 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 da bo, ba 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 da bo.
I could, but I don't need to now. You've done it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just keeping the gimmick up of singing along on podcasts.
Yeah, I'll do a bit of Metallica for you. Yeah. every week I'm gonna strong arm that in. Ori continues. For a wrestling match, she'd like to go back and see Kenny versus Okada, the time limit draw, and historic moment. Wicked with the original cast. Now, a Wicked's like a stage production play, isn't it, sort of thing?
Yeah, it's the Wicked Witch of the West.
I don't know.
Like Wizard of Oz, told from the side of the Wicked Witch.
Right. Okay. Okay.
It's really popular. Not kind of my cup of tea, but it is really popular.
Fair enough. We have Griffin K at Griffin K1 on Twitter. He says he would go back in time and buy a great amount of shares in an upcoming yet largely unknown company called Amazon.
That's a great shout, and your reply gif was perfect. $1 billion.
See, I don't know, man. I like what they did in Back to the Future, where the guy had like all the sports results, and he just started. I think that's what I do. I think.
Yeah, but then you've always got the chance that someone like Biff would steal that book from you and become rich and also a bit of a bastard.
Yeah, fair point. Okay, I'll buy Amazon.
I mean, Jeff Bezos became rich and also a bit of a bastard as well, so it's lose-lose, really.
Well, I suppose.
Just stay poor. That's the best way.
Stay poor in the present. Scottish Danny at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter, good friend of the show. It says here he'd go and sit front row for the rebirth of the Monday Night Wars, TNA versus WWE in 2010. This show had everybody from Jeff Hardy to Hulk Hogan to the NWO to the Nasty Boys, all the big names involved. Now, I can remember watching this and thinking, this is exciting, sat at home watching it. But at the same time, I mean, first of all, I don't think seeing the Nasty Boys in 2010 would be any point of excitement, to be fair. I think the Nasty Boys, maybe 1990, but in 2010, I can imagine they could barely move. But, okay. The NWO, Hogan, Hardys, yeah, okay, same.
What I do really like about this pick from Danny is tempered his own expectations. I mean, money no object, timeline no object. He's thought, I'll keep something that's genuinely realistic. This could have actually happened. So I do appreciate that. But yeah, that's of all the things in all of the world that I would have gone back to watch, I wouldn't have personally picked this, but more power to you, Danny.
I mean, wrestling, well, I suppose it comes
could
down
have
to your
been
own
part
preference.
of the 500 people who were there. Could have been 501 people. Hit the impact zone.
The impact zone, bloody hell. And they got rid of the hexagonal ring, didn't they, around this time as well?
Mm-hmm. Damn you, Hogan.
Damn you, you big orange racist. UTT Rob on Twitter. Okay. He says he's similar to the Amazon thing, I guess. He says he just go back and buy Bitcoins. I mean, Bitcoin with pennies.
Can't you tell the people who just want to be rich, like just rich beyond compare, not even interested in seeing some of the amazing things that have ever happened in the world? I just want to be lauded. I just want to have all of the money. Money.
I suppose you could combine it though, couldn't you? You could say, okay, for example, we had a couple of people say they'd like to go back to 1966 and watch England win the World Cup. Mm-hmm. You could place a bet in 1966, and because you're going back to experience that, but you already know the outcome. You could do both.
I mean, what would you win though? Like 3 and 6pence, 5 shillings.
I don't know. Depends how much you put on, I suppose, man.
And you couldn't take your newfangled like decibel money. You'd have to have like imperial, I suppose, shillings and halfpennies.
All right, well then you go back to, what was it, 1970, 70 odd, wasn't it, when they brought in the decimal system?
When we decimalised.
Yeah.
Bet on the 1966 result then. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, because that wouldn't work, would it?
Okay.
I mean, you'd have to go back to a time after decimalisation and do it that way.
And how would that work? How would
Not on the World Cup in '66, a different sporting event.
Okay, that's fair.
See,
Now it makes sense.
That makes sense.
It does make sense now. Now you had to elongate the explanation. It absolutely makes sense.
Well, it made sense when I said it the first time. You just didn't get it.
It made sense in your head.
You're just being a fool. Paul Tolly at Rain Counter on Twitter. He says he would love to go back to see the Manic Street Preachers play on Millennium Eve, which I've not heard of them doing that, but I'm assuming that was a big deal at the time, a big concert that they put on.
He's Welsh.
Yes.
So they could have just been playing it in someone's backyard and it would have been a big deal.
Or just the woods randomly. Do you remember when bands used to do that? They used to advertise secret gigs and just turn up at halfway up Chosen Hill or some shit and just start playing.
you don't get that kind of rock and roll anymore, do you?
No. And secret, and they'd leave clues on posters or on their Facebook or their MySpace. It might have been back then, I suppose. Imagine if their clues were too tricky and nobody got it, and no one turned up.
No one turned up, or everybody turned up at somewhere totally different.
Yeah, the band are there playing just to a squirrel or something, and a couple of trees, and everyone else has rocked up down the road at the end of a brook or something like that, wondering where the band are. That'd be a disaster, but I'd love it. Tolly also says Wales versus Belgium from the Euro 2016 quarterfinals, because obviously
very Welsh.
I was gonna say obviously the Welsh side there. Winning a quarterfinal is obviously all they can celebrate. The Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 80. I tried to skip on really quick there, but
oh wow! I apologise for Sar and his rampant Welshophobia.
Well, I'm part Welsh, and I apparently 1/64th or whatever it is.
64th Welsh.
I don't know what it is, but it's like a tiny amount, yeah. Tolly also says The Rock versus Hogan, which I'm assuming would be WrestleMania 18 and not the rematch at No Way Out, because that was dog dirt.
No, when you have your wishes, I mean, I know it's not the same, but when you have your wishes with rubbing a lamp, if you're vague, you always end up with the shitter version of what you wish for. So he's going to No Way Out. He's ruined that for himself.
Oh, unlucky, Tolly, mate. Unlucky. But there we go. Graham at MGB Graham on Twitter. He says, and this kind of puts us all to shame, really. We're talking about all getting rich and going to see England win the World Cup, and Tolly going to celebrate the glorious quarterfinal victory that Wales had once upon a time. Graham says, I think pretty much like Sam, his fave leaps were when he was given the opportunity to visit relatives. Having had my final grandparent pass away this year, the opportunity to see them again would be awesome. Which kind of made everyone else look like a bit of a dick, I guess, didn't it?
I mean, Graham is always the responsible one out of the group. So yeah, but it's a very heartwarming pick.
Yeah.
It's something that it would be cool if that could happen.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's got that sort of special someone that's not around who they'd want to have one final chat with, I suppose, or share a meal with, or whatever, I guess.
But thanks for bringing the mood down, Graham. We appreciate that.
Yeah. So, and he has a little dig at us then via the Good Cop Bad Cop Wrestling Podcast Twitter account, saying, depending on how bad COVID restrictions stand, he might be travelling to England next year. So the post-Brexit UK will surely feel like he's travelled back in time to the 70s anyway. He's probably right, to be fair.
If I were in Graham's shoes and I got out of the country when I did, and then I look back at the mess we as British have made of it, I would not be coming back to this country whatsoever.
Not even to visit?
No. I've been ringing up people I know and laughing down the phone. Should have got out when you could, and now you're trapped.
You do realise that you're effectively laughing at yourself because you're still here, don't you?
I know, and I regret that every single day of my life.
If you went out, they wouldn't let you back in anyway with all your dodgy activities.
Yeah, that's why they don't let me out.
You'd have your passport seized or whatever, you know. Millwall Chris at Millwall Chris 1 on Twitter. He says he would go back to the 25th of November 2002, the date his first child was born, and he'd make sure. Sweet. Yeah. He said he makes sure his daughter was not in his hands when his wife collapsed, so he could actually catch her and not just have her lying on the floor staring up at him. Scared the shit out of him, he says.
that went dark, went very dark then. I thought that was a really sweet thing. I'll go and witness the birth of my daughter again, but no, it was to stop his wife from collapsing on the floor. I mean, it's not really that dark, but it wasn't the sweet, innocent one that it first sounded like it was going to be.
But I love the Quantum Leap sort of, you know, hints or vibe to this tweet he sent in here, because it's almost like he is going back to put right something that once went wrong. So
yeah, exactly.
You know, his wife collapsing. So fair play, Chris. Yeah, I'm on board with that, mate. I'm on board with that. Steve-O at Total Steve-O on Twitter, good friend of the show. He says here he would go to ancient Egypt to see how the pyramids were made.
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite a good shout, actually. Stuff like this didn't even enter my mind. I'm thinking, I'm going to go see a band, or I'm going to go see a football match or whatever. But when you think about it, the opportunity to really look into something spectacular is there. I also just don't think that deep about things. I'm thinking I'd go see Motorhead.
Some of the ones that Steve-O came up with were things that I would certainly have wanted to at least have the opportunity to see. The pyramids, brilliant. Going back to Roman times. The Hitler stuff, maybe not. Trench warfare in the war, yeah, I'm good for watching that in the comfort of my own home.
Yeah.
But I do get his point. Some of the kind of world-changing events that have happened, and we've never been able to witness it.
Yeah, I mean, he also says here that he'd go to see the Twin Tower attacks and stuff.
Yeah,
I ain't sure about stuff like that for me personally, but I understand the historical importance of these moments, I guess.
I mean, maybe if to kind of piggyback of that, going back to before they happened and being the person who kind of was able to stop that from happening in the first place, maybe.
Yeah, but then you get all into paradoxes and stuff then, aren't you? And changing timelines and stuff, and
and quantum leaps.
Oh, potentially. I mean, I could talk about that sort of crap for hours, mate. Nobody will listen, but I can.
And you do talk about that for hours on Quantum Leap, the waiting room.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, we don't actually go that deep, to be fair. We start to, but we always kind of get sidetracked. No, it's great. It's really good. Season 1's basically completed now. Starts Friday via Radio Tekkers. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Waiting Room Pod _. You'll find it all on my social medias as well. Everyone give it a listen, give it a try. Even if you're not into Quantum Leap itself, it's just it's great hearing Benny be passionate about a show that he loved when he was younger. I hope I come across the same way. I enjoyed recording it. Hopefully people will enjoy listening as well. The first episode is very much a case of us talking through what the plan is for the first series, and then episode 2 we get into the actual episodes themselves. So give a couple a listen, and let us know what you think at the Waiting Room Pod _ on Twitter.
Yeah, and before we get back to Steve-O, let's run a little teaser clip.
Cream soda.
Nice. You like cream soda?
Yeah.
You're a delinquent as far as I'm concerned.
I love cream soda, mate, but it's got to be the cheap £1 shit. The good stuff's too sweet.
That makes no sense in itself. Cream soda is rank. I don't know.
It's not lemonade, flavor, isn't it? That's what it is.
Now I like vanilla, but I don't like cream soda. It's rank.
Well, then you're the delinquent, ain't you?
That still tickles me every single time.
I love the 8-bit music that Benny got as well. The Quantum Leap theme done in the old sort of Amstrad style, that's great as well. Yeah, I've enjoyed it so much. Just going back and watching the show again, I enjoy, but actually talking to somebody about it and so on, love it. Absolutely love it. It's a great show to me. Even if you don't like Quantum Leap itself, check out the podcast because, me and Benny are great, so you'll enjoy that. There we go. Cheap plugs all round. Friday via Radio Tekkers. Steve-O continues. He knows some of his choices were morbid, but he personally can't get his head around these things, i.e. how many men were fighting in World War I battles, the height of the towers and 2 planes crashing. It's things his brain just can't get around. So I appreciate where he's coming from with those shouts there. He also says, like when Brian Cox says there's more stars than there are grains of sand on Earth, and we're only one of one galaxy of billions. Yeah, it is pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? So
it just shows you how infinitesimally small we are in the whole grand scheme of things. And another thing that will blow your man, especially Steve, if he doesn't know it, when you see the stars now, you're actually looking at history, because the light has taken so long for it to reach your eyes that the majority of those stars aren't even there anymore. They've already expanded and exploded. So you're basically, it's a snapshot of history every time you look out to the stars. So
those beautiful stars you're seeing are already fucking dead.
Yeah, because the light takes billions of years to reach your eyes. Yeah.
Again, slightly morbid, I suppose. So when you wish upon a star, you're basically wishing on something that's not there anymore. So
exactly. So
yeah, good luck with that, I suppose.
Yeah. What a waste of a wish.
Yeah, I always preferred throwing a penny in a well anyway, mate. At least you get to hear the little noise was pop. Do you know what I mean? That's better than a star. We are a wrestling podcast.
We'll get there, folks. We will get there.
We will. Our good buddy Matt Willis, the magnificent Matt Willis at the Matt Attack UK on Twitter. He says here, he would love to have been able to be at Live Aid. What a blast that must have been. Oh yeah, totally. I agree. Seeing the performances. I mean, obviously Queen is the one that everyone remembers, isn't it? The standout there. But I think Status Quo opened the day, I believe. Well, they were on early anyway. And everyone was singing along to some Quo classics. Guns N' Roses also performed, and just absolutely awesome stuff. I'd love that as well. And the old Wembley, as much of a dump as it was, it's still, you see video footage of that concert at that old Wembley with the Twin Towers. Amazing, just groundbreaking stuff. Matt also says he would have loved to have been able to see Triple H versus The Rock from Backlash 2000. What a crowd that was. Have we covered that one, Maxie? I'm not sure we have.
I don't know if we have, but I'm sure it will come up sooner rather than later.
Okay. He says he guesses the main one is to see if he and Chris, who's Matt's partner, would have met at an earlier point. The whole what if kind of thing. Oh, we're back to time traveling, wibbly wobbly paradoxes, Maxie, and different timelines crisscrossing and what ifs and sliding doors and all that nonsense. Oh, it's a whole different show, mate.
As Sharon said in the chat earlier, oh God, don't get him started.
Oh, I get really passionate and excited about time
I've
travel.
heard the whole time travel paradox lecture far too many times. I think Sharon comes on this show every week as therapy. She just puts up with your like grief all week, and she's like, it's nearly Monday. I can air all my issues. And she just comes on and slates you.
Had a good day today. Mine, I went to the shop, bought a few bits, made her a fry-up, done the washing up after. I think that means that, by rights, she should listen to me talk about time travel.
It's almost like you're domesticated.
We're married, mate. It's give and take, innit?
You give it and she takes it.
Sorry?
You give all the grief and she takes all the grief.
Yeah, that does sound about right, to be fair. The last couple I have here on Twitter. So if I've missed anyone, I apologize. Magsy, flag them if I've missed any. But I have, one from Twitter, and one was actually a message sent via WhatsApp, so I wouldn't forget, because I can actually then screenshot it from WhatsApp as well. From two of my 3 daughters.
Oh,
Anya,
right.
first of all, said she couldn't choose just one event, but a few that spring to mind. She'd like to have seen Michael Jackson on his farewell tour. And that's a good shout, actually. Sharon also, when we were discussing this earlier on before I came upstairs to start the show with you, Max, was saying an opportunity to see Michael Jackson perform live.
Mhm.
It is something that stood out to her as well.
Yeah.
Anya would like to have been there to see, or I suppose, hear Martin Luther King's speech. I'm assuming she means the whole "I have a dream" speech. That I imagine it's that one.
Probably more the speech that when he got shortchanged in Tesco.
Oh,
means that speech.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair enough. I mean, he did like a rant, didn't he? Let's be honest.
When he didn't get his preferred meal deal.
Yeah, when like the spicy chicken wrap wasn't
I
there.
have a dream that I could get a spicy chicken wrap and a smoothie and a bag of oysters.
I have a dream that the Mountain Dew had not ran out. Yeah. But very important fella. And
yeah, well, I've heard, allegedly.
Yeah. Anya also says that she'd like to have seen medieval times. She says it would just be interesting to see how far society has come, and I suppose experience that time period firsthand, as opposed to just seeing it on the television and so on. And when I spoke to Charlie about this topic, I speak to the kids and get their sort of feedback as well during the week. Charlie, when I said to her about a band potentially you could see, straight away her ears pricked up, and she said she'd love to have seen One Direction before they split up, which kind of made me smile, to be honest, that my little girl was that passionate about. I mean, it's not that music's no way, shape, or form my cup of tea, but it kind of made me smile that my little girl was that passionate about a band in general. So
good on you, absolutely good on you.
Yeah. Should we have a quick look in the chat, Magsy? Anything there that we've missed before we get on to what you and me would do?
Yeah, a lot of people excited for the Quantum Leap show. Matt wants you to tell him more about it. And Scottish Danny said he's never seen anything of Quantum Leap, but he's really looking forward to this. Hashtag cream soda. Dan, hashtag fucking delinquents. Yeah, that's brilliant. Matt has also said that they found the first planet outside of the Milky Way today, which is 28 million light years away. I mean,
wow.
that's a bit of a distance.
You need
Scottish
more than one
Danny
CD, wouldn't you?
Said, does this mean that Uncle Dave's star rating means nothing? Yeah, because the stars have exploded. I mean,
they're already dead.
They mean nothing anyway, because he's a shill. He's an absolute shill. Graham in the chat has put, I thought he would have picked going back to when the Power Rangers debuted on TV. I'm assuming he means Matt, because Matt is a nerd for Power Rangers.
Okay.
And Matt's giving a little bit of context between him and Chris. He said, we've had so many times where we've missed out on each other growing up.
Right. Now that's really interesting. That sort of, again, it's the sliding doors thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon said, I'm assuming she means you had a complaint to make about bubbly chocolate.
Or she might mean Martin Luther King, actually.
Well, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, he seems a sensible bloke, so he probably didn't like bubbly chocolate.
Martin Luther King, he seems a sensible bloke.
Dan Griffin's saying exactly what I was thinking when you mentioned medieval times. I bet they bloody stunk, and I bet it was dirty. I bet everything was manky.
There was just shit everywhere, weren't there, from all the animals, and people just shit in the street and stuff, weren't they?
Yeah, just there were scruffs back in them days.
Yeah.
And
it's like a night out in Cheltenham.
I mean, I was not going to say that, but I certainly won't dispute. Anya said, I saw One Direction live, kind of rubbing it in there, Anya, a bit mean. Could have just kept that to yourself. And then Sharon, I'd love to take Charles to see One Direction. We like to sing a few of their songs whilst driving. That sounds like maybe the worst car journey in the history of the universe. But to each their own. Whatever makes you happy. Charlie, if you love One Direction, good for you. Absolutely good for you.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. What about yourself then, Mags? If you could pop back and forth through time, where would you want to head to, mate? Where would you want to go? Or when, I suppose?
Wow, I just removed that. Oh, one sec, let me take that off. Yeah, I think
where we go.
yeah, I think I'd piggyback off Dan's straight away, going to the 1966 World Cup, just when England were legitimately top of the world in football, and just. I mean, even now, it's still looked back as one of the greatest things that this country's ever done in terms of sport. So yeah, definitely like to go and see that. I'd also be really interested to go back to the Berlin Olympic Games when Jesse Owens absolutely made a mockery out of Hitler and his Aryan race by being a black man who won multiple Olympic medals in front of Hitler. I thought that would have been a kind of a big fuck you to one of the worst human beings to ever have graced the planet. So that would have been cool to see, I suppose. But I'm kind of like Steve-O and kind of like Anya in a way. I'd like to go back to some of these times where monumental things have happened in terms of history, not so much as morbid as Steve. I don't want to go and see like mass murder and people dying, but I mean, things like going to see the first space shuttle or the first spacecraft taking off and seeing just how important that was, or the first flight, the first kind of phone call across a continent, things like that, just like monumental, life-changing events that we now take for granted. Those are some of the things that I'd like to go back and see.
Yeah. I'm not as deep as that, mate.
Plus, I'd like to win some money. I'd do a rob as well. Let's invest in Amazon.
I personally, a big one for me being a United fan would be to go back to when we were good still, which is obviously not this weekend, just gone. I'd like to go back and experience that treble winning season again. I attended a couple of games, but none of the big ones. I'd like to go, be there for the European Cup final itself. I mean, the Wembley final against Newcastle as well. Even the last day of the season when they clinched the league title against Spurs, when they were 1 down and came back from that. Just a special team playing some brilliant football. Music-wise, then, is kind of, I suppose, the next big thing for me. I'd like to tell my younger self never to miss a Motorhead show, because Motorhead came through around these ways pretty much every November. And I got to a stage where I'd seen them several times and I thought to myself, oh, I'll catch them next year. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, eventually Lemmy passed away. I mean, I got to see them 10 or 11 times, but I could have seen them much, much more. And now they're gone. Is that thing of, it's a shame. Or the big one for me that from there would be probably Iron Maiden headlining Rock in Rio in Brazil in it's been early 2000s, Bruce Dickinson had just rejoined the band in 99. They released the Brave New World album, and I'll attach a video. I'll put a link out on the show's Twitter to the intro to the concert, because you see them fly in on the DVD, because there's 250,000 people there, and it's it's breathtaking. It's just every time I see it, and the intro, the lights and the crowd, I get goosebumps. So I'd like to probably head to seeing Iron Maiden on the, effectively, I suppose, a mini reunion tour when Bruce Dickinson rejoined the band. So yeah, that's kind of it for me, I think, Max.
Yeah, some really good shouts, and Sharon has already put in the chat, wow. I don't know if that's your picks or whether it was because I slated One Direction. I think it's the latter.
I think it's the latter. I think.
Yeah. Dan has come up with a real kind of head scratcher of one. I travelled back to see just how the universe was created, record it on my phone, then come back and tell everyone to stop killing each other over religion. That's brilliant. I absolutely love that one. Sharon saying that was a memorable for so many reasons for you, wasn't it, babe? I mean, I assume that's you. I think I'm safe in assuming that she means you.
Yeah.
Especially when she brackets it, the treble.
Yeah.
I wasn't really bothered about Man United winning the treble. In fact, I kind of detested it.
No, I was in 99. I was 19, 18, something like that. Mm-hmm. And the night of the European Cup victory, I did two very silly things. One was propose to my, at the time, fairly long-term girlfriend, because I was very, very drunk, and it's still, you know, a laughing point to me and Sharon now. It wasn't Sharon, by the way. It was, and
Brilliant.
and secondly, we watched watched the match, the final in a bowling place in Gloucester, because it was really good at the time to go to watch the footballing, because there's so many screens and there's a big space. There's a massive gang of us there. And funnily enough, Sharon was there as well, but we weren't together or anything like that at the time. We were, you know, different people, obviously. And I ended up in my drunken state when United won the Champions League, buying everyone effectively in the bar, or at least in my section of the bowling place, a drink to celebrate, not thinking of the cost, and it came in at around 170 quid. I know, again, drunk, didn't think nothing of it, just blasted it on my card, and away we went. Woke up the following morning.
Skin.
Whoa.
But it's a day that you'll never ever forget.
Yeah. It was brilliant. Oh, and Solskjaer has won it. Man, just fantastic comment. Again, getting back to the likes of Jim Ross providing commentary and so on.
Mm-hmm.
The commentary the ITV guy provided for that match, it still sticks in my mind now, all these years later. It's such an important aspect of when we watch sporting events, isn't it?
Yeah, ironic how pivotal Solskjaer was in that, and how pivotal he is in taking Man United down to potentially the Championship.
Don't talk fucking nonsense.
We'll see at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'll take that bet, mate. You know, we ain't going down. So anyway, we are a wrestling podcast. So
We are allegedly.
So shall we get round, Magsy, to talking a little wrestling?
Well, let me just find the button, and yes, we shall.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I want a poll.
I mean, to be fair, I had won 4 in a row, so it was getting a bit boring.
Yeah, so I was very, very happy to have won a poll. I thought a few weeks back I was going to level it up soon, because I got to like between 1 or just 2 behind you, maybe. I think you were on like 24 and I was on 22 or something like that. But yeah, then you pulled away again, didn't you, mate? Sort of running away with it again.
I mean, to be fair, you also did suck up to the voters with the, would you mind if I put Chris Benoit in? I know he's a bad man, but I really want to watch this match. So they all felt really sorry for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, you know, I played on their goodwill by talking about a murderer. Yeah, that works. Oh, what's this? Dan Griffin, Solskjaer has won it, is a phrase you don't hear much nowadays. Yeah. No, that's very true.
And also, I hear Man United legend Steve Bruce is looking for a job.
Hey, fantastic player for us. Fantastic player for us. Top
he'll
class
keep you up. He'll definitely keep you up.
Yeah, and that's why I said I'll take that bet.
And as Dan says, get your blankets and your hot chocolate and your water bottles. It's time for us to tell you a tale about a match from years gone by.
Many moons ago.
Many moons
ago. A moon surrounded by dead stars. Yeah, my selection won the poll, Maxie. The main event of WrestleMania 20. A triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship between Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit. Now, before we get into this, everyone, I assume everyone is aware of what happened at the end of Benoit's life. It's horrific. It's horrid. It's something that we don't want to get into here. Our show's not about that, but
we can caveat it by saying not us reviewing and talking about his match is in no way condoning what happened on that horrific night. The acts of Chris Benoit was monstrous, and we will never ever condone what he did. This is just us decompartmentalizing his wrestling career, and it doesn't change how we feel about what he did as a person to his victims. Yeah,
brilliantly put, Maxie, brilliantly put. And if anyone's not, and I'm referencing my kids here, and I don't know if Sky is still up and about. I mean, it's coming to 10 o'clock. Don't look at that. Just take our words for it. Leave it as is. Okay. Look at Chris Benoit here as the wrestler, and just end it with those thoughts. Yeah, this was in Madison Square Garden, main event of WrestleMania for the big gold belt. Oh, mate, that was huge, big match feel to it, didn't it?
Yeah, and the whole kind of premise of this WrestleMania 20, I think the tagline was something like "Where it all begins again." WrestleMania had gone from arena sizes to stadium sizes, and for the 20th WrestleMania, they went back to the home of WWE, essentially, Madison Square Gardens, where that's their wrestling mecca, I suppose. So it was very kind of poignant that these huge shows happened in that arena.
Yeah, and this time period, everyone knows how much I love Shawn Michaels. He's my favorite of all time, along with Ric Flair. The guy's fantastic. But I was fully invested in 2004 Chris Benoit, from the Rumble win to, basically he won the Royal Rumble to earn this title shot. He was at the time on SmackDown, but turned up on Raw when Shawn Michaels and Triple H were arguing about the next match in their year-long feud. So
essentially the context is that Triple H and Shawn Michaels have been feuding for a long time. And they'd had a couple of matches that had gone to a draw. Then when we get to the Rumble show, I think that they went to a draw in the last man standing match.
Yeah, that's right. An absolute bloodbath as well.
Yeah. So Shawn Michaels, with Benoit being on SmackDown and winning the Rumble, he assumed he was getting another title shot because they needed to finish this feud. So he was out on Raw, basically trying to push for the title match. Stone Cold said, "No, you didn't win at the Rumble, and you also didn't win the Royal Rumble match. So I want to bring out the winner of that match right here." Chris Benoit comes out to massive cheers and a lot of shock as well, because he was a SmackDown guy. He wasn't expected to turn up on Raw, and he essentially challenged Triple H. We got a contract signing where Chris Benoit is just about to sign the contract to make the match official, and Shawn Michaels super kicks him, signs in his place, and Eric Bischoff, who was the GM, essentially says, "This is going to be a triple threat match." And I think this ends up being the first ever world title triple threat match to be held at a WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it was difficult for me as a fan watching at this time, because again, like I said, Michaels was my guy and I wanted him to win, of course. But the Benoit storyline and the Rumble performance and the fact that, I was reading the dirt sheets, magazines, and so on, and I was effectively, I suppose, a bit of a dipshit mark, because I wanted the best wrestler to win, and that was Benoit. It didn't matter to me that he was, he's too small, or in my mind, I was screw Vince McMahon for not getting this guy because he's too small or he can't talk. I watch wrestling and I want the best wrestler to win. So I was fully behind Benoit, but also Michaels was in the match as well. So watching it live, staying up till silly o'clock or whenever it was, I was quite torn actually on the night. But I remember popping huge when Benoit actually did win the match and secure the world championship. But we've got a little bit to go through before we get there. Something that really hit me, Magsy, and it is, I suppose, the sort of passage of time, I guess, does this. But how, even though it's at Madison Square Garden, how low key it almost felt with the entrances, because you're not in the big stadiums, and the main events now, they all get big special entrances and so on. It was very, Shawn Michaels had a couple of streamers go off, and at the time, that seemed like a big deal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it was very muted, and I think that comes with having an arena rather than a stadium. You obviously have less room to make a massive stage set up. You have less room for fans. You've got less room for a walkway. So it does make sense. But the thing that kind of annoyed me about the entrances was how much JR was massaging the numbers. I think he said something like that. Shawn Michaels was his 11th WrestleMania, which was correct. But then he said I don't think was true. I think, if I remember rightly, he was main evented WrestleMania 12 and WrestleMania 14.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania 11, he was a title match, but it wasn't the last match.
Main event. Bam Bam Bigelow went on last year.
Yeah, exactly. And then at WrestleMania 10, it wasn't a main event. At WrestleMania 19, it wasn't the main event. So he kind of stretched it a little bit.
Oh,
and then,
totally.
And then I think he said that Triple H was in his 9th WrestleMania, and the last 2 he was in were main events. He faced Booker the year before, and that was
slap bang in the middle of the card. Yeah,
certainly not a main event. Exactly. So the massaging of facts. I mean, it's a typical WWE trope nowadays, but that kind of grounded me, especially remembering what happened with Booker T and how he should have won that match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, I know Triple H gets a lot of grief for burying people and things like that, but at WrestleMania, he's got a minus record. He's lost way more matches than he's won at WrestleMania. So yeah, he does put people over, but he should have put Booker T over in that fucking match. That's still great. I'd go back to that match and I'd be the referee and I'd quick count so Booker T won that match. That's what I'd do with my time traveling. But
Booker should have gone over.
Yeah, but getting to your point, it was a very kind of muted entrance. In terms of the fans, though, they were rabid. Especially for Benoit. Benoit was hot.
Yeah, and again, it goes to show for me how when WWE get it right, they do it so well. Mm-hmm. Because Benoit was a smaller guy who couldn't really talk. I suppose to a degree, maybe to some people, he still had a little bit of that WCW stench on him when he came over in 2000. Okay, this is 4 years later, but to me, he still felt like a WCW guy. Yeah. He was basically a solid, talented mid-carder that you kind of see. I suppose it's where he went back to after this as well. But it's he's kind of the guy who gives you a good match and your star beats on the way up, I suppose, is kind of his role that he would eventually have. So the fact that he was in this main event, I loved, and I think the way WWE told the story made other people love it too.
Yeah, I think the fan reactions that he was getting all the way up to leading to the Royal Rumble gave WWE not really much choice than to push him. I mean, kind of like how they were kind of had their hand forced with Daniel Bryan. I think that was 10 years before. That was the same with Benoit. People appreciated the technical skill. I mean, on a technical level, he was probably the best wrestler in the world at this time. In terms of sheer in-ring wrestling talent. So the fans really were gravitating towards him, and he was getting massive cheers. So I think there wasn't much option than to push him. Otherwise, it's an absolute waste. And couple that with the fact he was clearly best friends with Eddie Guerrero, who was on the hottest streak of his career. It kind of made sense to end this show the way that they did, having two best friends all the way through their wrestling careers, made it to the big dance of WWF, and both eventually champions at the end of the biggest show on the calendar year. So it made every sense in the world to push Benoit to that point. So yeah, I was definitely a Benoit guy.
Yeah. I think as well, it was kind of a necessity. It was like a needs must for WWE as well, because they were very much looking, I suppose, for the next guy, or even just looking for an identity to a degree, because Lesnar and Goldberg were both leaving after this pay-per-view. This was their last. Their last performance was on this show against each other. Austin was no more because of his neck injury. I mean, he didn't die. He's retired.
He was the sheriff.
No more. Yeah,
Sheriff
exactly.
Austin.
You know, so he couldn't work in the ring. The Rock was here, but it was very much a special occasion. Him popping in. You know, he wasn't long term. I suppose Mick Foley as well was wrestling on WrestleMania 20. He wasn't a long term. He wasn't going to be around. In at this time, people thought he wasn't going to be around long term, but he did obviously keep coming back. And
then you also had kind of like the young up and comers who just were probably not quite ready. The likes of Randy Orton, who was on this card, Cena as well, both kind of really barreling the way through the mid card, but just not primed enough for main event spots. So kind of having Chris Benoit as that middle guy and Eddie Guerrero as that middle guy kind of moved away from those stars who were leaving, and they had enough kind of like star power to help bring through the younger hungry talent.
Yeah, exactly right. The match itself, Magsy, it starts off with Triple H taking a bump to the outside, and then we get an exchange between Michaels and Benoit for only a couple of minutes, but it's just those two early on. I thought this was bloody fantastic.
I mean, triple threats can either go one of two ways. They can stink because you've got the odd man who kind of just makes the match shit the bed, or you can play it like this played it, where each one had a break almost, shall we say. So we essentially got 3 different singles matches all rolled into one. I think that's how triple threats work the best. You obviously are going to get the double teaming, and we see that quite a few times. But for me, when it's one-on-one action that's then suddenly split up by the third person, that is what makes it the best for me, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think direction can do a lot to help with this as well. There's a few moments in this match that we see where, as you say, you have effectively a singles match going on. And what's going on in the ring is so good, I almost forget about the third guy. And then when they come in and interrupt a count or make the save or whatever, it feels out the blue because the camera works. Yeah, the camera works, not jumping back and forth all over the place like it is now. I mean, there's one moment where I think Triple H has hit the pedigree. He goes to cover Shawn Michaels. Again, a little bit of a throwback, I suppose, to the year before with Booker T. He takes a long time to make that cover. But then, rather than Michaels kicking out, Benoit jumps in the ring and disturbs the count. But I didn't expect that to happen because we've not seen Shawn Michaels for a few minutes. He's been completely off screen, and there's no daft camera cuts that we're getting now where you can still catch him every now and again. It kind of reminds you that he's there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you don't see them kind of harding or taking a rest at ringside, where you, especially with the cuts that you see with WWE now, where they're cutting the camera every 5 seconds. You catch wrestlers essentially taking a break. You catch wrestlers kind of peeping over the apron to see when it's their time to come in the ring. You didn't get any of that with this, and I think that camera work. There was a one point of it where it annoyed me when we missed Shawn Michaels skinning the cat pretty early in the match.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think Kevin Dunn actually should get a lot of praise for the way this camera controlling was done. I thought that it really helped add to the match.
Yeah, totally. I agree. We also see a few really sort of clever, creative spots, I guess. There's an occasion where Benoit and Triple H are on the outside, but the one has hold of the other, and then Michaels comes out of nowhere with a baseball slide quite early on before he climbs to the top rope and does a moonsault to the floor. Something incredibly simple. It's just a baseball slide, but it looked fantastic because of what the other two were doing at the same time. We get exchanges of people's finishers. I mean, the crippler crossface that Benoit does is easy, I suppose, or maybe not easy, but for these guys, it's easy for them to get to that move from other moves. So it's, and then of course, Sweet Chin Music comes out of nowhere. The pedigree sometimes can be a good setup for a counter into other things, and it's just kind of those moments. It all seems so fluid, all sort of blended into one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a point where I think it's Triple H. It's Shawn Michaels who's going to attempt to do the Benoit triple German suplexes. So there was a lot of kind of stealing the opponent's big hitting moves But those Germans always look brutal. I think when he does them on Triple H tries to force out after the second one, but the way that Benoit was able to power through, and they may be the best looking German suplexes that we've ever seen in wrestling, because they look so brutal. And Shawn Michaels kind of scrambling to try and get to the ropes.
Yeah. I've got a note about that here. Yeah,
it's such a good visual. I mean, he's literally facing the camera. His arms are scrambling to try and grab the ropes, knowing that he's going to be tossed on his shoulders and his neck at any second. I thought that was a really cool visual.
Yeah, his legs are flailing around as well, aren't they? And Benoit's he's just ragging him. I mean, Michaels is great selling wise. You know, obviously there are occasions where he goes too far, Mr. Hogan. But there's some brilliant moments with Shawn selling in the past anyway. And with Benoit here, I mean, I think both he and Triple H worked very, very hard to make Benoit look the star, to make Benoit look the guy who was going to, in theory, carry the company. I mean, granted, it only lasted till SummerSlam that year. They'd effectively given up on him by that point, WWE as a company. Mm-hmm. But this was their go-to for now. This is what they wanted to do. This is what they wanted to try. And I think Michaels and Triple H did so much to give him the rub, I suppose, as they say. I mean, the rematch they have exactly the same as this triple threat at Backlash the following month. I think it's actually even better than this one. Mm-hmm. The rematch at Backlash is better, in my opinion, and the it's even more so that way of Michaels and Triple H making Benoit look like this wrestling machine and really sort of pushing to get him over in that top spot. I think it's testament to how great, I suppose, all three of these guys were.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with Benoit, he always had the wrestling chops, but he didn't always connect with the fans. And I think the WWE realized that this was his time. Shawn Michaels had come back in 2002, essentially with the aim of making a bunch of new stars. And I think that this is testament to how good of a person Shawn Michaels had become. I mean, we all know the history of him being very political and very kind of protective of his spot. But from his return in 2002, I thought that he was pivotal in making a hell of a lot of wrestlers bigger than what they are. And Benoit certainly was one of the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, without a doubt. We get some more brutal moments as well, I suppose, as the match progresses. We get Benoit suplexed by both Triple H and Shawn Michaels from one announce table up into the air and slammed through another announce table. That looks very
essentially just thrown, not even a full-on suplex, because obviously it's going to be hard for two guys to be stood on one table and land safely on another table. So they just essentially pick him up and
hurl him,
throw him through the table. But even before we get to that, I mean, we see I think Michaels hits the flying elbow, then the super kick, but Benoit pulls Hunter out of the pin, and then we get the slingshot into the ring post where Michaels is the first one to bleed. And I mean, you can see him blade when he's down on the floor. I get that, but it looked brutal. He really kind of like headbutted the top of that post.
And the Madison Square Garden crowd, when he sort of turns, the first inkling I got was when the crowd went, ooh, and as he's turning, and then he faces the camera and you see all the blood. It's like, oh, right, okay, because it was a gusher, wasn't it?
And we actually end up with pretty much all of them covered in blood. It's it becomes a very brutal match. But yeah, that spot with the table, we thought we were going to get a pedigree, and then we thought we were going to get like a backdrop, but it eventually ends up being Benoit just hurled through the. I don't think it was even the Spanish announcement table. I think it was the SmackDown one, the one with Taz, I think.
Yeah, because I think they were stood on the Spanish announce table, weren't they? That was in the middle. Yeah. There's a moment I loved as well. I'm a big fan of this sort of thing. I think I've seen it in Japan somewhere as well, where Benoit has the crossface on Shawn Michaels, and Michaels is looking like he's about to tap, and the hand comes out, and he's going to tap out, and then Triple H on the outside grabs Shawn Michaels' hand, to stop him tapping out and costing Triple H his championship. How brilliant is that? How genius is that?
It's such a clever spot. I've seen it. I think this is the first time I remember seeing it, but I have seen it repeated over and over again. But yeah, it's such a clever spot. But even before we get to that, I think when we see Benoit get slammed through the table, Michaels is actually quick into the ring. If you watch it back, and he points at Triple H and he's like,
"Yeah,
let's finish this. This is a me and you thing. We've got rid of the third man. Let's finish this." And I think that's where Hunter nearly wins and gets the pedigree. Just takes too long to get the cover. And we get one of those moments where you think Benoit is out of the match, and then all of a sudden he's back in to break up the pin. All three guys are down on the floor, and the crowd were just wild, absolutely wild. And everyone in that building was in Benoit's corner. The amount of cheers for Benoit is absolutely unreal.
Yeah, Shawn was getting booed as well. I mean, you think how popular Michaels is? Well, I suppose in certain circles, in other circles, he's definitely not. But in certain circles, the Heart House maybe. But in certain circles, he's incredibly popular. He was getting booed because he just simply wasn't Benoit. It was, it just the push that they gave Benoit and the way they booked it was just so perfectly done. It was just so well done, wasn't it?
It was. He was the right time, the right guy at the right time. He definitely deserved the push. And Michaels and Triple H deserve all the props in the world for getting the crowd to get fully behind Benoit. I mean, it's always give and take in wrestling, and you need that heel or the bad guys to help the face get over. And I think that them two were very giving in this match.
Yeah, without a doubt. I suppose that brings us roughly to the finish then, Magsy, doesn't it? We have Chris Benoit putting the sharpshooter on Triple H. Sweet Chin Music breaks that up, and that looked like he absolutely just clocked him.
The slow motion replay. Michaels, I've heard a lot of people report saying that Michaels makes the Sweet Chin Music look absolutely brutal, but he makes contact as light as a feather. He didn't make contact light as a feather with Benoit. He took Benoit's face off. It was such a big shot. But that leads to him trying to go for another Sweet Chin Music. Benoit is able to counter that and toss him over the ring, and then we get
bundles over the top rope as well, doesn't it? One leg, then the other, and sort of tumbles away.
Get out, you prick. But the whole kind of last couple of minutes with Benoit having Triple H locked in that pedigree, locked in that crossface is so damn good. Such a well-told story in just one move. You've got Triple H almost passing out. The guy did kick out at one, just being the douchebag that he is, powering up. But the not wanting to tap, almost reaching the ropes, and then Benoit kind of rolling him back into the middle of the ring, and then just cranking back on his head. And Triple H, I have to give him props. He sold this like an absolute champion. He could have easily tapped quick and the match was over, but I think that would have took away a bit of the impact of it. But he stayed in this move for ages and ages, to the point where he had no other option. There was no way he was getting out. He'd used every kind of lifeline he had, and he ended up tapping. And then we see Benoit. And this is what wrestling really means to me emotionally, when you see the wrestler crying because they've reached the top of the mountain. We all know it's scripted. We all know that it's all planned in advance, but that still doesn't take away the fact that you as a wrestler have reached the pinnacle of your career. You are the world champion in the biggest company in the world. They've got enough faith in you that they're willing to put you as their number one guy. It must mean a hell of a lot to people. I mean, if I were ever a wrestler and I was given that opportunity, I'd be busting out in tears, because it's the thing of dreams. I mean, Benoit's dream was always to be a wrestler. It was always to be a world champion, and to see him break down in floods of tears, that brings a kind of a lump to your throat, definitely.
Yeah, without a doubt. Mate, I wouldn't even need to win the world title to get that.
Just show up.
Just if I was a wrestler and I won like, I don't know, the equivalent of the 24/7 championship in like my local social club sports hall sort of thing in front of 7 people and a dog, I'd be blubbing like a baby in the corner, celebrating, jumping out to meet the 7 people there would be my family, and I'd just be going to celebrate with them.
The drinks are on sale. Oh
Exactly.
shit! It's another £170 bill again. Jesus Christ! What
I
have
ain't doing that again. Oh, absolutely brilliant match. I really enjoyed watching it back to the point where I actually then, after watching that, watched the 2004 Rumble, and then I went to Backlash and I watched the Backlash Triple Threat as well. Again, the Backlash Triple Threat I think is the better of the two. I don't know if that's because they're in Canada, so the crowd are very pro Benoit, even more so than they are here. So I don't know if that makes it a bit different. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, this era of Benoit, he ends up facing Michaels in a one-on-one match at some stage, Triple H in a one-on-one as well, before ultimately losing the belts to Randy Orton at SummerSlam that year. And even that, when he lost the belt to Orton, was a great match as well. So I mean, this period of Benoit was superb.
Yeah, it goes exactly back to what I said. He may have been that kind of transitional between the old guard leaving and the likes of Randy Orton and John Cena coming through, but it doesn't take away just how good of a wrestler he was, and he definitely deserved the plaudits at this time for being arguably the best wrestler in the world.
Yeah.
But between him and probably Angle at this time, them two were head and shoulders above everybody in terms of wrestling.
The match that he and Benoit and Angle had at the Royal Rumble 2003, I think it was, is just an absolute masterclass. It's so good, so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Magsy, what do you want to give this out of 10 then, my friend?
Yeah, we've had a spate of matches where we look upon them fondly with rose-colored glasses, but when we've gone back and watched them, they kind of haven't lived up to how we remember them. I think this one is a better match than I actually remembered it being. I think emotionally, it was way better. The wrestling was better than I remembered it. So this is probably going to rate pretty highly for me. I think I'm going to go with a 9. I think it was that good. I think it was such a well-told story. Two genuine legends putting over the person who should have been the top guy at the time. Everything went right in this match. Just great storytelling, great wrestling, brutal violence, and the end, the final shot of two best friends at the very top of the biggest wrestling company in the world after spending decades in tiny arenas and traveling all over the world and going on this journey together to be at the top of the tree. It's such a monumental point in wrestling that, yeah, I can't give it less than a 9.
Okay. I'm gonna give it less than a 9.
You heartless.
I'm going to go 8, purely because, again, this match, I think, suffered for me because I then watched the rematch.
Okay, yeah.
And in my mind, the rematch is better. So if I'd seen this as a standalone, my rating probably would have been a bit different, but I kind of skewed it, I guess, by watching the rematch, which to me was, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this one, but the rematch was a smidge better for me. Mm-hmm. So I think 8 for me is where I'm going to go, Magsy. But Benoit was superb at this time. Mm-hmm. Triple H, I think this is not peak Triple H, because I think that was back in 2000, 2001 before his injury and so on. But this is, I suppose, the next peak Triple H, I guess. He's kind of doing things here that are some of his best since his injury. And then, Shawn's the boy, isn't he? Shawn's the kiddie. So, yeah,
absolutely.
Great stuff.
I can totally understand your reasoning especially if you went back and watched the rematch. I didn't do that. But it would definitely be on the list to watch sometime this week.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Where do we go next?
Well, before we get there, we've had something which is a change for chain wrestling. Normally, the gang all cuddle up and sit there, hot chocolates and listen away. But they've actually been really kind of chatty during this analysis. So we start with Scottish Danny saying he loved Triple H's white boots.
Oh yeah, totally.
I thought they were fucking horrific.
Really?
Absolutely, yes, they were disgusting.
I can remember him coming out in those, watching it live, and thinking, it sounds so daft now because it's just boots, but thinking, oh, he's dressed different because it's WrestleMania. You know, I'm thinking it was a big deal. You know.
Well, you're a fucking delinquent, then, aren't you? And then Dan Griffin saying, just mentioning the 2004 Royal Rumble reminds me of Daniel Puna getting the absolute shit knocked out of him. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Was that one? Was it?
Yeah, it was Daniel Puna. He was only in the WWE for a short time, but he nearly broke Kurt Angle's arm, and then got beat up in a Royal Rumble. Scottish Danny saying the promo package for this video was great. I think it's very underappreciated. I think it was a great promo. And then making us feel old. Everyone at school was talking about this pay-per-view at school the morning after. Thanks there. I like the way you double down on at school just to rub it in that we're old AF. This is an interesting question as well. So Scottish Danny says 1994 was the year of Bret Hart, 2004 Benoit, 2014 of Daniel Bryan. Who will be the star in 2024?
WWE wise, I can't tell you. I don't watch enough of the product.
Dan Griffin has got a good shout in Bron Breakker. I think that guy has got star written through him.
Is that Steiner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rick Steiner's son.
Yeah.
But if it's not him, it's probably going to be Brock Lesnar Jr., Parker Boudreaux. I think he's another one who they are going to absolutely push to the moon.
Okay. So I've not seen any of NXT 2.0.
It's really good. It's really, it's very much a throwback to older NXT where you may not know the stars as much as you did in like the last run of NXT, but there's enough star power in there for you to cling on to, and they're really pushing the younger stars. I mean, it's a renaissance for me for NXT.
Oh, okay, I'll give it a go then. But then I don't watch Raw. And I watched SmackDown this week actually. Wow. Because I watched I watched Lesnar Reigns from the Saudi show, just because that whole Paul Heyman dynamic had me interested, and they made me want to tune into SmackDown, so I watched SmackDown. So, but that's kind of it for WWE for me. I don't really know enough about the modern day WWE product to call who's going to go where, I guess.
Yeah, I don't. I keep abreast of the stories through news and through Twitter, but I don't watch Raw at all. Don't really watch SmackDown a lot. I did catch some of the Saudi show. Normally, I would give them a wide berth because of the whole politics and things like that. But god damn, there were some good matches on that show. God damn, they were.
I heard that like the Hell in a Cell match was excellent and stuff like that. But I just watched. I watched the main event. That was it. So
that was a great match. And that match, and this is kind of like a little bit of exclusive news. That match I watched with Mrs. Maggs, and as I've said multiple times on this show, she is not a wrestling fan whatsoever, but she was getting very angry at Brock Lesnar, which made me realize she's actually very emotionally invested. So that sent the old grey matter twirling, and there may be a future podcast in that.
Bloody hell!
So keep your ears peeled for that. If I can convince her to be on a podcast, we may throw around some ideas for that. But getting back to the chat, we Andy from Bam Bang checking in. He's several gallons of Europis down on holiday. somewhere in Devon, and he also loved that spot. And I'm assuming he means the stopping of the tap spot when the Revival did it in NXT. So yeah, the chat is alive still going into the end of the show, so we really do appreciate that. Dan, even though they've made Parker Boudreaux look like Uncle Fester foot nails,
Brilliant.
he absolutely does it. I mean, I assume you've seen Parker Boudreaux before.
Yes.
He looks very much like Brock Lesnar. He shaved all his hair off now. So,
okay.
Yeah, so he does look a little bit like Uncle Fester.
Right. Well, everyone needs a gimmick, I suppose.
And we'll leave it on this one. Reigns is a joy to watch right now. Well, he always is, but you know what I mean. That's from my good lady. Powell.
Yeah. We all know her feelings about Roman Reigns. Where do you want to go then, Magsy, next week for our Halloween special?
Well, as you say, it's the Halloween special, and let me reiterate: do not let this fail, people. Send us your new, old, or whatever Halloween fancy dress pictures, so you can be in the mix to win one of the once in a lifetime unique goodies from Chain Wrestling. So definitely joining that. So yeah, we decided back in the DMs to kind of make this spooky, as suppose with it being Halloween themed. So I said, how about we keep it to Undertaker matches? But not the kind of American Badass or Dead Man Inc. Undertaker, but the genuine original Undertaker. So kind of like the first iteration, going up to maybe the corporate ministry, where he was involved in some of those more kind of like supernatural style matches. So going along them themes, and obviously trying to kind of strong arm a link in with today's match, because that's the whole point. There has to be a chain. It's pretty easy to do because Undertaker has faced all three of these guys before. He's faced Michaels and Triple H at multiple WrestleManias. He's actually only faced Benoit twice in competition, and only once as a singles, which was which is at Rebellion 2000 from Sheffield, one that I guess that Dan may have has frequented, seeing as it was in his neck of the woods. But I actually want to go back 10 years from this. So go back to 1994. I want to go to the Royal Rumble. Have you got this pick as well?
I've got a backup pick. Don't worry.
Okay. So,
but yeah, I was going there, mate. I was going there.
I want to go to probably the most famous casket match that Undertaker's been involved in, and he's been involved in a hell of a lot of casket matches. I want to go to the one where he faces Yokozuna for in the casket match, the infamous one where he rises from the casket, and we get the first kind of a transformation of the Undertaker. So yeah, I want to go to the Royal Rumble 1994, Undertaker versus Yokozuna in a casket match.
Yeah, that was going to be my choice, Magsy. That was going to be my choice. So
great minds think alike,
and idiots agree. So I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna throw a bit of a wild card in there, I guess. Again, using the Undertaker as a link. My link wasn't that he'd faced all these. My link was he was on the card just before this match, wrestling King.
It absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Works.
So yeah, it's easy enough to do, isn't it? So yeah. My choice then, if my choice loses, I don't mind, because Royal Rumble Night 4 was my choice in the first place. So
yeah, win-win.
I'm gonna go with something horrid and horrible that we could potentially have a giggle at. I'm gonna go to WrestleMania 9, Mags.
Oh,
and I'm gonna have a little look at. Well, if this wins, we can have a little look at the Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez at WrestleMania 9.
I would rather watch when Hulk Hogan saved the world.
It is awful, but it could be a giggle.
There's nothing funny about Giant Gonzalez.
Apart
from his claws, his ring gear was funny.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely shocking.
The chest and the pubes and all that. Sorry,
one of the worst wrestlers to ever do it. The Undertaker apparently still to this day complains to Bruce Pritchard about booking him in that. Not a good WrestleMania, an awful bloody match, but Bobby Heenan on commentary. So,
and the only one that Undertaker of his streak that he didn't win decisively as well.
yeah, that's true.
How about looking at his whole the people he beat in that streak, and then you see that he beats Giant Gonzalez by disqualification. Horrific.
He only beat. Was it Jake Roberts? He only beat by count out as well.
Yeah. But at least he's had to beat somebody down enough that they can't answer the count. He beat Gonzalez because Gonzalez tried to essentially chloroform him. I mean, I'm giving away the match, hopefully, so that we don't have to watch it, and then we get to watch Yokozuna. But the pick is yours, guys. Pick wisely.
There we go. So there we go. Where do we go next week for our super spectacular Halloween special? Do we go to the 1994 Royal Rumble and see some Undertaker silliness when he faces Yokozuna in a casket match and rises up to heaven at the end? I guess I don't know, but it's kind of silly. Or do we go to WrestleMania 9 and see some Undertaker silliness where he faces Giant Gonzalez and it's terrible and bad and rubbish and probably a bit of a giggle? Those will be your options on the poll. The poll will be up later in the week once the audio show has been released for your lug hole listening pleasure. So that's it, mate. That's it, I suppose. Sorry for the win, my wife says in the chat. I should.
Only time she supported your pick, and it's the time you don't want her to support it.
Yeah, that's it. You watch her garner support on Twitter now to get us to watch that garbage. Whilst we're sat in fancy dress next week talking about Giant bloody Gonzalez and his chloroform sheet or whatever.
Why did you come up with this idea, sir?
I'll be honest. I said I had a backup plan. It's the first thing that came to mind when you had my. It's literally the first thing that popped in my head. So I was like, I'll just go with that. It ain't gonna win anyway. Now I'm concerned.
I'm very, very worried.
Yes. Anyway, next week, our Halloween special. It's going to be bloody fantastic. Some chain wrestling merch available to be won. Send in your pictures, DM them to Mr. Mags at Podfathermags, DM them to the show at chain_wrestling, but it's easier if they go to Magsy. I'm not gonna lie. Recent pictures, old pictures, you dressed up in fancy dress as a kid, whatever you want to send us, it's all for good fun, all for a bit of a giggle. The only way to make sure you're eligible to win the chain wrestling merch, the t-shirt, the pop socket, all these other bits and bobs that we got for you, we need you to be following Chain Wrestling on Twitter at chain_wrestling. We need you to be following Radio Tekkers on Twitter at Radio Tekkers, and we need you to be subscribed to the Radio Tekkers YouTube channel.
That's it.
That's
I
it.
mean, you all already do that anyway, so.
And you get a lovely t-shirt if you win that declares you the Chain Wrestling Halloween 2021 champion. And there's only one. I'm not going to have one. Magsy, I'm pointing the wrong direction there. Magsy won't have one. No one will have one apart from you if you win. And we'll collect the size. It's not one size fit. It's not like, if you're a youngster sending a pick in and you win, you got to wear it like a bed sheet. We'll take your size and get it made specifically for you.
It's going to be the same size as those little football kits you used to stick in your car window.
Oh, the stoppers you have to spit on. Yeah.
It's that size.
That's it. You can wear it like a little glove like that.
I'm the champion.
Oh, there we go then. Magsy, before we depart, do you want to let everybody know whereabouts they can find you online and whereabouts they can find your awesome content, especially a change in attitude, which I'm loving? Whereabouts are we up to now, my friend?
We are just getting to the point where Pillman has got a gun.
Oh my god.
Before I give my socials, I want to kind of quell the riot that's going on in our chat. I think there's a bit of a coup going on, sir. Dan Griffin saying, at Scottish Danny, at Sharon, should we do our own rival broadcast? Because they want to see an alternative timeline where Chain Wrestling cover a selection of TNA Monsters Balls matches. And your good lady is saying, yes. Scottish Danny is saying, I'm down. That's brutal. Come on, guys. We need you. We will pitch you some Monsters Ball matches then. Please
we could easily get there for the week after next.
Don't start another Monday Night War because we will destroy you.
Oh, I don't know about that, mate, because that'll be all our listeners going off and making their own show. We'll just be shouting into the abyss.
Yeah, just come back to us. We'll put on the matches you want. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at Podfathermags. I'm all over the airwaves. A huge part of Radio Tekkers where we cover some absolutely amazing topics, and I'm so excited for Friday and the release of the waiting room. It's something I've been looking forward to for a hell of a long time. But I'll also be back in about 20 minutes or so with the volley to go over the weekend's football action with Matt and Chris. So if you've got time, stick around to join us for that. But a change in attitude, that's over on the chair shot where Tanner and Ori, two of our Radio Tekkers team, we cover the Attitude Era of WWF. And we're wading through 1996. We've got through the crap. We're starting to get to where Austin is actually becoming a huge deal now. So hopefully it's getting better. But sometimes, and it's been said in this in the chat, sometimes the bad stuff is more fun to watch.
Just not WrestleMania 9.
Yeah, definitely not WrestleMania 9. Please don't watch WrestleMania 9. But yeah, that's where you can follow me, and there's always links to the content I'm involved in there. So
yeah. Great stuff. Yeah, as Magsy mentioned there about the waiting room out on Friday via Radio Tekkers, give the show's social medias a follow at Waiting Room Pod _ on Twitter, or you can just follow my Twitter handles at Benny's as well, at Benny Mac, BENNY, Benny Mac, where you can find links to the waiting room there. Hopefully everyone will give it a chance. Hopefully everyone will give it a couple of episodes. I think we sort of really get into our stride a few episodes in. We're still finding our way for the first couple. Hopefully everyone will enjoy that as well. That again is a Radio Tekkers production, as is Chain Wrestling, where you can find the show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Chain _wrestling there. Chuck it all a follow. Make sure you're about next week for our live Halloween special. It's going to be a bloody giggle. You can find me at SJP Words, and I'm off now to go and wish upon a dead star. Mr. Magsy, I will see you next week, my friend.
Bye-bye. Happy early Halloween, guys.